Hi there. I decided to record a podcast, and what better way to debut it with three of my buds and doing a trend that we are quite behind on, that being a tier list. In this case, being a tier list of the original G1 Transformers characters. Now, to save a little bit of trouble, we had a little bit of hiccups when we were doing this, and we missed out on three characters, those being Optimus, Bumblebee, and Cliffjumper, and I'm just going to footnote it right now that Prime and B are S tier, and we decided to be nice and put Cliff on the A tier. And you're going to be hearing the tail end of that conversation about Cliffjumper while the rest of this goes. So I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, because to be fair, he's still a well loved legacy character.
True.
Agreed. Next, speaking of well loved legacy characters, next we have good old Jackie. And it's no
Oh,
question this guy's at least an A tier, especially with his recent resurgence in arrivals in recent media, especially with his upcoming appearance in Earthspark.
Yep.
oh yeah, like honestly, I think he's S tier for me personally, guys. Just because,
No,
and
I
I say
agree.
this
I love
because
old Wheeljack.
Wheeljack was one of the few characters in the first two. One of the few first year characters who actually kind of had a discernible personality from the rest of the Autobots.
Yeah.
Well, no sense fighting back against an outvote.
I
Next
mean,
we
don't
got
get me wrong. Oh,
yeah
now
we
Tom,
got
I know you love Prowl, and I love that.
I
I think we
Who
all
really
doesn't
do.
love
like
Prowl?
Prowl.
Who
But
doesn't
if
like Prowl?
he's awesome, but honestly, I thought about this long and hard today. I honestly feel comfortable putting him in B tier, guys. And the reason is simply because within the context of G1 itself, the cartoon at least, Prowl was always just kind of one of those there characters. Like he never really got to be a significant character. The only closest thing to having a significant spotlight on him was that one episode where Chip Chase is first introduced and takes control of him during a fight against the Decepticons.
Right.
Only thing that keeps Prowl from getting lower, though, like going any lower on the list, is because he is
His
a
appearance.
he's an instantly recognizable fan favorite character.
And you also gotta give him props because his head design inspired the Autobot insignia.
Oh, for sure. Like, so
Yeah.
again, I love, like, trust me, if we were doing IDW's comic books, Prowl would definitely be higher up on this list.
But I mean, B is not a bad one.
No. I was thinking either B or A, but I think B is fine.
Jazz. I mean,
Oh,
how could you
Jazz,
go wrong with a man voiced by the Scat Man himself? Honest to God, how?
Yeah.
Jazz is in Jazz is easy A tier for me, just because he's one of the
Agreed.
most instant. He's one of the best. Again, he just has one of the coolest personalities. He's voiced by Scatman Crothers, and every time he's in an episode, even if it's just him and just doing wacky shenanigans in his downtime, Jazz was always vibing.
Oh yeah, I especially love how he was sort of Prime's right hand man, and I love that he got research into popularity thanks to the. Oh wait, sorry, context of G1, context of G1 can't.
No, 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 no. We are taking like their overall the
Impact.
I also love
impact.
how Jazz and Cliff, they're the first ones to die in the retrospective live action movies, but they were the ones to survive the 1986 purge.
Right?
Which is kind of ironic considering Scatman Crothers died after the 86 movie and Casey Kasem left.
Yeah.
All right, you kind of made that a little bit sad with mentioning about Scatman's death.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. It's all good, man. Next up, my boy. You guys know him. He's my boy.
Good old
Yes.
Swipe.
Sideswipe. I,
And if he wasn't your boy, your DeviantArt account wouldn't be named after him.
I'll admit it's personal bias on my part, but honestly, I have to put Sideswipe as an A tier at
Honestly,
least,
with
just
him
because.
and Sunstreaker being the first sibling characters, and just because of like the popularity not only in his design but just the dynamic, he really has been able to stretch his legs and come up as a character.
Also, I do have like I'm looking at him on context on his own with this because I do have some things to say about his brother when we get to him, but
Right.
besides, I actually think like don't get me wrong, I agree, Tom. Like the fact that he and Sunstreaker were some of the first sibling characters ever written for the brand is definitely significant. I think Sideswipe's probably going to get a little higher up on the list than his brother for me, simply because unlike
He's
his
got
brother, he's definitely had been able to shine on his own a lot more, I think, than Sunstreaker has.
All right,
yeah.
so I say he's an easy A.
Oh, for sure. Another easy A, Ratchet.
Knockbot.
Absolutely no question here. Ratchet has, I mean, it's just what can I say about Ratchet that hasn't been? He's just been that. He's been such a gem of a character, not because of his feats on the battlefield, but because he's the one that keeps all of his teammates going.
Like, yeah, Ratchet's just always a delightful. Ratchet's always a delight in every episode of the cartoon he was in, and again, he's easily over the last almost 2 decades now. He's quickly become, he really has earned his spot as a legacy character.
Right.
Indeed, he has. I argue S tier just because like some of the best stories told in Transformers have been around with Ratchet between like in the years since between Prime and
Animated.
yeah, and just because like for what little time we got a Ratchet, he had such personality being the one to repair all of his teammates.
It also doesn't. It also, I also love his voice too, where it's like I just love the fact that he's in the original cartoon. He's voiced by Papa Smurf.
And Scooby Doo.
Oh yeah.
He's also the voice of
I
Scooby
say
Doo.
at the very least an A, if not S.
Like, oh well, I think he deserves S. Another easy S. And admittedly, it's just because he and Prime share a voice actor.
Old Man Ironhide.
He also got a big like chance to step into the spotlight when with his own episode. Basically, him kind of
Grappling with his old age.
yeah, just kind of trying to get his confidence back due to some blunders. This is also the episode Carly was introduced.
Right.
So
yeah, like, but like Ironhide was always was also another character that was just always fun whenever he's on screen. Like seriously, I love that Peter. Not only is he voiced by Peter Cullen, but Peter did such a great job making Ironhide distinct from Optimus with that cowboy Southern drawl.
Well, Peter Cullen was always a fan of cowboy stuff, so
easy S
I was like, I don't know why, but I always just like remember when Jazz was having trouble transform and Ironhide just kicks him. Hey, I can't transform. Thanks, I guess.
Now we got into one that might spark some debate. Good old Hot Rod,
aka Rodimus Prime. Honestly, I'm honestly okay with giving him an A.
I'm honestly okay too, especially since he's gotten a lot more love from the fans with his other appearances.
Oh yeah.
And I know like I like in the context of G1, I don't think Hot Rod was really as bad as the fans made him out to be. But I kind of it's like, there was a video from TJ Omega I watched recently, guys, that talked about this, and it's like, because like again, before Hot Rod was brought into the 86 movie, before they wrote him into the script, originally, you know, it was Ultra Magnus that was going to be taking over leadership of the Autobots. The reality is, regardless if it was Hot Rod or Magnus, I think the reality is that
nobody would have accepted it.
Or no one would have accepted, anyone but Optimus Prime leading the Autobots, just because Optimus left such an impact as a character.
Exactly.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with you guys on that assessment, and it's not like they didn't put in the effort to make it work. Honestly, there were, with all my issues with season 3, there were moments that I was like, all right, these guys actually put their best foot forward with Rodimus, and props for going for a bit more development with the character.
Yeah,
but admittedly, there were a lot of things in season 3 that ended up weighing down even a lot of the positive stuff.
Yeah.
Agreed. Like season 3 is a mixed bag.
Yeah, it also doesn't help that. Did you say like they had their budget cut?
Yeah, like they really that was during a time when animation in the 80s, the budget for a lot of animated shows was getting cut, so they
Yeah.
had to
Yeah, they
pick.
would no. I don't think
Yeah. That's
they
not to.
were using Sunbow anymore.
Yeah, that's not to say there weren't any highlights in season three. I still think Web World's one of the best G1 episodes.
Yeah, just it. It's one of those where it shouldn't have been as good as it was, but they somehow made it work.
I
Yeah.
agree. And honestly, like before we move on to the next character, I'm just gonna say, guys, like I feel like get why Hasbro has been reluctant to revisit this concept, at least in any major official capacity, because of the reception to, Transformers the movie back in '86. But honestly, Justin, I've said this to you, and I'm saying it here for
I
this for this
agree.
this for this thing, Tom, for your podcast. I honestly would not mind seeing Hasbro attempt the whole Hot Rod becoming Rodimus Prime leadership arc again.
I'm
I
I
the
think it's
same way. I want to see them do it again.
yeah,
long overdue. It's long overdue, fellas.
yeah. I wouldn't mind them just like throwing their hat in the ring in that again. Just maybe with more story purposes rather than product purposes.
I
Right.
agree. That's all we're asking.
Not
That's
crapping
all
on the
we're
writers
asking.
all that much. They were
Oh,
working with the tools they had. Next
and
up
they've
is
basically
the action hero himself, Springer.
honestly, I can't put Springer anywhere other than S, just because he really is just
He is
he's
so
just a
memorable, not only because of his personality, but just because he was the first Autobot triple changer.
Yeah, that is
not
true.
like I love the fact that the script for the movie, when they wrote the character, they said they like the whole idea was that he was like an Indiana Jones type character.
Which made him
Correct.
instantly endearing. Matter of
Yeah.
Seriously,
fact, for Springer, if he ever was in
I
any
got better
future
things.
stuff, whoever they got to play a younger Han Solo in Battlefront 2, they should get the voice Springer, just to bring in
Oh, I'd
that
be
Harrison Ford energy.
energy.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd be
It's
down
kind
for
of a
that.
shame that it's kind of a shame that Springer really hasn't been featured in any cartoons.
Oh,
Any
he was
newer
featured
cartoons.
heavily in the IDW comics.
Yeah, I know he's featured in the IDW. I'm just saying, like cartoon wise, like the
I
newer
get you
Yeah,
there.
cartoons.
I agree. Like, I do appreciate though that he's at least been like he makes a can there's a bust of him animated in Yokotron's dojo as one of his students that he trained.
Right.
And we also see a cameo of him in RID 15 as one of the Autobots that was blacklisted by Cyclonus and his puppet High Council.
Right.
Yeah, that was cool.
But I would love to see him make a return to animation as a main character.
I agree.
I won't argue that.
Springer is long overdue to make a comeback.
Next, we got good old Cup himself, and yeah, I love how they were able to just not necessarily a flat out replacement for Ironhide, but someone who
Different
also
enough.
filled that position. I mean, obviously, when you go for the old gruff, you're gonna have Ironhide, but I mean, Cup is still an interesting character in his own right. Just sort of that, been around the block a few times, old army sergeant.
I agree.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I just love how they embrace that, especially in, I think it was Cyberverse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
The first, well, the sort of like, well, at least the first time he's had a prominent role in animation.
Yeah,
yeah,
but
like yeah, it was great to see him finally come back in some capacity. Like, I think personally, while I do really love Cup, I don't really I can't I think realistically I can only see him as an A tier character.
Yeah.
all right,
I would say he's realistically he borderlines between S and A because that's how awesome he is.
yeah, he was such
I
a
agree.
big cast member in season 3, so
Yeah.
I
And I
can agree
loved
with
him
that.
in the movie. And I loved him in the movie.
Yeah, same here. Next we have
Especially his dynamic with Hot Rod.
yeah. Next we have the city commander himself, Ultra Magnus, and it goes without saying, I think this guy is an S tier
He's an
just
S.
because he's like like just barely under the rung of Prime.
Yeah. And he has made an impact in other series as well. In fact, in one series, he's the leader of the Autobots.
Yep. I mean, and you can't go wrong with that iconic voice given to him by Robert Stack himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's... I think the thing that I loved about Magnus, especially like in the context of G1 specifically, his debut in the movie, was that they didn't just straight up make him an Optimus Prime clone.
Even though that's kind of what his toy was.
Yeah. Well, he's distinct enough from Prime, and like, right. I love
in both design and personality.
Especially his personality in the original, because like I love the idea that like we clearly see he is a capable leader. The only one who doesn't see it is the bot himself.
Right.
In his mind, he's just a soldier. He's better at taking orders than giving them. Right. So again, I would argue his commanding of the situation at Autobot City proves otherwise.
Yeah,
that is true.
Yeah, and I love that, and I'm glad Magnus is getting more recognition with his more distinct look as Hasbro keeps creating new figures, and they've just realized that they can't keep getting away with just a white Optimus repaint. We can't deal with those now.
Yeah.
Though, if I'm going to be honest, fellas, I wouldn't mind seeing a future Transformers show doing like what Dreamwave Comics did, where they actually show the white duplicate of, the white Optimus Prime version of Magnus, like what we think is Ultra Magnus just being his, like, almost like an Iron Man suit of armor, and then underneath we see he's basically a white duplicate of Optimus.
Saying,
I would love to see that in animation just once.
All right.
That's just me, though. Next up, Blur. I like Blur a lot, but I realistically see him as just an A tier.
Yeah. Once again, another character that, especially in recent years, has been able to really stretch his legs, no pun intended. But he was just so unique as just such a speedster of a bot.
Right. Oh yeah, like I also love the fact that like they decide to play into, because he moves fast, he talks fast, and who better to voice him than the fastest talker in the world, John Machida Jr.
Yeah, depending on...
He still holds that record.
Yep, still holds the record. And apparently the reason John even said the reason he's able to do it so well is because, believe it or not, talking fast is actually pretty easy.
Really?
Huh.
But yeah, like, I even, like the fact that they actually got John Machida Jr. to come back to voice Blur in animated was just such a great love letter to the character.
I agree. And by the way, guys, just because of the nature of this, I do want to record this entire thing, but I gotta be up for work, and maybe if we pick this back up, we could do this at a more convenient time. I'm not trying to throw shade.
How about Saturday?
Saturday works for me.
That's fine.
Okay.
I mean, nobody will ever notice. I mean, nobody's ever gonna notice. I'm just gonna edit this together anyway.
Okay.
So like,
that's fair. It'll
probably be like nothing to the audience. I wish I could have just recorded this straight like a normal podcast, but extraining circumstances or whatever the hell. Let's just get through a more, because I at least want to get down to. Let's just get to RC next. RC.
I think she's definitely an S.
Definitely, like she's definitely broken the glass ceiling for this franchise, thanks to her debut in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it really was ultimately because of the movie's lead writer Ron Friedman really had to fight tooth and claw with Hasbro to get her included, because he insisted that, and he wasn't lying, everything he told them was true, that he has, his daughter loves sci-fi stuff like this.
Right.
So good on you for like
yeah, like, and it was because of her, while the movie was in production, her inclusion led to the creation of Elita 1 and all the other female Autobots that were, in the episode The Search for Alpha Trion. Like, that episode exists because of RC. So without her,
And don't worry, we'll get to them later.
Right.
Yeah. Like, so, you know, I love everything about Arcee in G1. I love her design, I love her character, I love her personality. I love the fact that Susan Blue just makes her a badass while at the same time making her a caring and
Really
nurturing
breathes
individual.
life into that character.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, she's a veteran voice actress, so.
Yeah. Blur. Punt this bastard into the goddamn. Not Blur. Wheelie. Punt this little bastard into the goddamn sun.
I'm taking it you want him at the bottom.
You've hit rock bottom.
I don't know if I want to be that mean. Yeah, nothing. Yeah, I'm sorry, but like this little guy just don't do it for me. He certainly opens up the door as like future mini-con appearances, and at the risk of having my head on a spike, I kind of prefer a little bit of his personality from Revenge of the Fall, just sort of the snarky, loudmouth smartass with the Napoleon complex.
I admit, like, yeah, it's like I get it. G1 Wheelie really is one of those you either love him or you hate him type characters.
He's like the Manila of Transformers.
You've already heard my you've already heard my thoughts, so it's up to you, boys.
Honestly, I'll be honest, I do love Wheelie, but when it comes to G1, the G1 version of the character, I don't have that much sentimental attachment to him, so I'm fine. And to be fair, I don't want to just I feel like we need at least one character in the bottom.
Well, there are plenty of characters to go around, so
I'm gonna go into the D tier because I'm not gonna be a total dick.
I'm like
lead a parade.
Yeah.
Couldn't lead a parade.
All right, so D.
It's all good, man. I mean, it's basically the same thing.
Back to the more positivity side of things, we have Hound.
The fat ballerina.
Hound.
Yeah, I know. I just had to say that.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, Hound for me, easy A tier, guys, just because, sure, largely because of the fact that he played such a big role in the series premiere with, the 3-part episode, More Than Meets the Eye, where originally he was going to be the bridgeway to the human characters before Bumblebee was given that honor.
But I feel like we can't just throw away Hound altogether, because he's still a very cool character, especially for his love of Earth and holograms, a character trait that would ironically be brought over to Prowl and animated.
Yeah, and I just think I love Hound's design. I love, green is one of my favorite colors. I love the fact that he's kind of more of a pacifist character, but he turns into he's like an army jeep from the 80s.
Right.
Military decals, like the star. I love the fact that, like you said, Tom, I love the fact that, he's a nature lover, he loves Earth, and I even love it in his profile by Bob Budiansky that he secretly wishes to become human.
Rather an unusual thing, but you know what the hell, just really emphasizes the point that this guy would really be home on our beautiful blue ball.
Say, Tom, but I know you said you're going to edit the second part of this when we grow up, but do you want to go? You think we could at least go till at least midnight, just so that we can get a little far into this?
You're gonna owe me one.
I know.
Buy a beer. I'll buy a beer.
Trust me. Trust me. I know I owe you, dude, and I'm all for it. You know what? I'm all for it. Whatever it is, I will do it, just as long as it's not something that makes me look like a total jackass.
Watch you dance around.
You had to put in that little bit of subclause to cover yourself. You'd be a hell of a lawyer. All right. Fine. Well, all right, fine. Midnight it is, but like I said, you're gonna owe me for this one if I just start slogging my way to work tomorrow.
I know. I'm sorry.
We'll buy a beer.
Just figure this way we can get a little far into this.
If I get affected at work in this, you guys are buying me a damn whiskey. All right, let's just get on to Mirage.
Smoothie, sneaky one.
One that I especially love got a twist on his powers and got some prominence in the War for Cybertron trilogy, which I was so thankful for. That, because we haven't really seen Mirage go back to his roots in so damn long.
Right. And, the hologram thing he has, I guess it makes sense. I mean, his name is Mirage.
Yeah. And considering he was the one to take down the Decepticon space cruiser at the end, I mean, that just shows how effective he is.
I do like Mirage. I really do enjoy Mirage as a character. It's just kind of sad that a character as unique as him really doesn't get utilized that much.
Yeah,
I have to agree.
Other than say the IDW comics.
As much as
but even then, he's kind of not. Even then, he's still a little underutilized.
So, as much as it hurts me to say this, because I do really like his character, it's either going to be a B or C tier.
I'd say B.
Yeah, because he is still, he is still a first-year character, so that's automatically going to make him memorable.
And, he's got some unique abilities.
Next really we got our first bot with a bit of a belly, good old Trailbreaker.
Honestly, I'm fine with giving Trailbreaker, putting him in B tier, and the reason is just because I do like Trailbreaker, but I just kind of feel like he's kind of like I think what hurts him is just, again, at least in terms of G1, he, especially after the first season, he kind of got downplayed.
Yeah,
a little bit, but still, throughout season 1, his force field and his personality was something to remember.
I just find it funny that his personality in the show was the exact opposite of what Bob Budiansky wrote for the character.
Really? What did he write for him?
In Trailbreaker's profile, it's actually written that, yeah, he is a jovial bot, but it's mostly to cover up his own insecurities. Like, he's all about making everyone else feel good to cover up the fact that he's very insecure. Like, he feels like he's the weak. He feels like he's the weak link in the team of the art crew, because his form consumes the most energon and most fuel. So he just feels like he's a drain on their resources.
Damn.
It's kind of interesting.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah, the IDW got to play with that a lot more though than G1 did. But again, I kind of understand why the cartoon didn't kind of do that, because I guess they didn't want. But I don't know. I feel like you could have dedicated a spotlight episode to that.
That would have been some heavy stuff. But then again, we've seen cartoons handle heavy stuff. I mean, name practically any episode of Batman the Animated Series, and you'll see what we're talking about.
Yep. Yeah, but that was the 90s. The 80s, there were still restrictions.
Okay, fair enough. Oh, that's another streaker. That's a tier list I need to put in the back of my mind. A Batman villain tier list of the animated series. Now we get to good old Sunny. The first example of a narcissist with a passion to protect his paint job, and it was an Autobot.
Personally, I agree with you, Justin. I'm fine with giving him a B. And again, it's really just because compared to his twin, Sunstreaker never really got to be too prominent over the years.
Yeah, the only thing I think of was the IDW comics.
Which really played into... IDW really played into Budiansky's original profile for the character, which, yeah, he was a narcissist, but there was also a darker side to Sunstreaker in Budiansky's profile for him, because he also had, sociopathic tendencies.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Sorry in advance in the recording if there's any sound. I accidentally just whacked my mic, and I'm just trying to adjust it. There we go.
All right.
I said, I do like Sunstreaker, but again, and I just feel like compared to Side, he never really has, at least least in animation, he's never really gotten to be as prominent as his twin. So he's kind of the one that he's the twin that kind of sort of got left behind, so to speak, which sucks. But at least in other forms of media, he still manages to remain a prominent figure. So I definitely feel like he's worthy of a B tier.
I agree. Next is while we're talking about bros, here we have Blue Streak.
I think Blue Streak's another easy B.
Fair enough. I mean, I feel like in the show they were something of a set. I especially love the banter between the two. What little we got of it.
I also love that they made, like, for the show at least, they made his design a little more distinct from Prowl, so they're not just completely the same thing like the Seekers were.
Right.
Good little bit of detail there that the Autobots had a bit more individuality.
I do like Blue Streak as a character. I like the fact that he talks a lot, playing on his name. You talk a Blue Streak.
Right.
I love the fact that he's voiced by Casey Kasem, so that automatically just gives the character a crud ton of personality.
Zoiks.
Yeah, but I just kind of feel like of the two beloved Autobots that Casey played in the first 2 seasons of G1, I just feel like Cliff definitely is the more memorable of the two. Like, Blue Streak's cool and all, but
agree.
he just never really got to be a super prominent
and
character
since
in the
I
show.
already mentioned one narcissist with a penchant to protect his paint, now we have good old Trax. The one who's a bit unusual with the whole flying car shtick, but at the same time, this was at the point, like the slow graduation of Hasbro just pushing the fuck it button with alt modes.
Well, it was the 80s. They were probably on a lot of cocaine.
Justin, we can't say that.
Right. You know what? You know what? Susan can kiss my ass.
Whatever.
But oh, come on. We're not gonna make a penny out of this.
No.
To kind of
but like, I'm gonna be honest with you, fellas. I'm personally okay with putting Trax in A tier, and if you'll give me and here's my reason why.
Oh, I already know your reason why. It has everything to do with his standalone episode with Raul in New York City.
Well, it's not just that, but it's the fact that, like, unlike Sun, it's like, yeah, he and Sunstreaker are both narcissists, but I feel like of the two, Trax is the one that's still more fondly remembered by fans. I mean, the fact that, like, yeah, like the standalone episode where, he befriends Raul, and the fact that Raul and he teamed up again in another episode with Blaster, who's a favorite of mine. It's like,
right.
Trax just compared to Sunstreaker got more chances to be an awesome character. It's like, yeah, he's still a narcissist.
He's the narcissist with a heart of gold.
I just love the fact that Trax's voice actor just decided to, like, have him sound like Thurston Howell from Gilligan's Island for obvious reasons.
I know.
That just really played up. He sounds like a fashion designer, which I can't help but be endeared by. So I'll give you the A list on that one.
Yeah.
All right, I think we can do like at least 2 more.
We got. It would have been cool if it was if these two were with their other partners. But first we got Grapple. He's an easy between either C or B because his standalone episode with the solar tower was really cool. He has been referenced now and again here as something of an architect and a artiste.
I'm personally okay with putting him in C just because we need to start putting some characters in that spot.
Sorry, nothing against you, Grapple. You're still a good architect, but
it's just he never really got to. Again, this was the problem with season 2. Like, I will still stand by this, boys. Like, I think season 2 is easily the best season of G1.
Oh, I agree.
Because I think it's where it got to really have the most fun. But at the same time, it's also one of the big problems with this season, I will freely admit, and it's more of a nitpick than it is a complaint. Just the fact that once they brought in all these new characters, kind of overbloated it to the point where just some of them really never got to be very significant characters, and just Grapple was kind of an unfortunate victim in that regard. Like, and he still and he still makes appearances in other media, but again, he's just never really gotten to be a significant character. And I do feel like he's just waiting for the right writers to come along and do something with him.
That's
When that will
fair enough.
happen, we don't know.
Fair enough. Speaking of writers coming along, here we have good old Red Alert, who sadly got famous for his extreme paranoia, even though admittedly that was only one case, and let's face it, he kind of hit his head really hard. Normally, he's a fairly high functioning paranoid fella.
To be fair, he is basically their head of security. So paranoia kind of comes with the job. You got to suspect. You never know when an enemy attack's coming.
Wants my job.
Be honest, guys. I'm perfectly fine with Red and A, just because the episode Auto Berserk just really, like, I love the episode Auto Berserk just because, like, him just going nuts to the point where he's just beating the shit out of his fellow Autobots is just amusing to me.
And just going back to giving a little more individuality to the bots, I love that with his design, you can see they went more towards basing him off of the G1 toy, where Sideswipe definitely had a few more creative liberties in his design. And again, that was to give a lot more differentiation.
Right.
And that was really clever of them to do that in the latter season, to again keep each of these bots individualistic.
I think another thing that definitely elevates Red to A tier for me is I also just love his odd couple double act he has with his good friend Inferno.
Especially since Inferno's always the one raring for a fight.
It's like one is gung ho and always ready for action. The other one likes to carefully plan out and strategize. It's the perfect odd double act.
Yeah. All right. It's midnight, and well, that's not going to matter to the audience, so it's just going to be edited in post. So
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe I'll do a transition or something, or just cut some of it so it doesn't seem like we did anything at all.
I think that's fine.
And we're in business.
All right.
No need for a recap. Let's just pick off where we left off. I'll just edit this all together in post.
Right. Magic words. Fix it in post.
Next up is Smokescreen, which should be an interesting one.
Okay, I'll start off on this one.
All right.
Like, I'll admit, personally, now I'll be honest. Personally, this is my own personal bias here. Of the Datsun brothers, I think Smokescreen is probably my favorite, even more so than Prowl.
Really?
Wow. It's like a lot of it I think just has to do. I like his color scheme. I like his characterization. I like his personality. Like I love that he's basically his place in the original G1 lore was as diversionary tactician.
And once again, I appreciate the fact that they went with the detail of going more with how the original toy was designed as opposed to having the more stylized design that the animators went with. So sorry, I'm just realizing I need to frickin' dust this keyboard.
My dusty keyboard.
At least you don't have a ladybug flying around your room.
Don't kill it, it's bad luck.
I know.
Like I said, realistically, as much I will admit, like I said, Smokey's my favorite of the Datsun Bros, and realistically, as much as I want to put him in A tier, I know that realistically he probably doesn't belong there.
So you're thinking more B?
I say he's an easy B tier, just solely because of some of the interesting feats we saw from him in season 2.
Especially in the episode The Gambler.
Really, like, that's honestly one of my favorite episodes in G1, just because it really gets to show Smokey's ability to just bluff his way out of a situation pretty well, even except for when it backfired.
Yeah.
episode's also significant for another character that we're going to be getting to here in a bit on this list, but we'll save that for when we get there. But to be
Right.
fair, I also agree that yeah, he's probably an easy B just because, well, admittedly, yeah, like the other Datsun Bros, he really wasn't much of a significant character in G1. But being said, the character did leave a lasting impact as he has been brought back honestly a lot more frequently than either Prowl or Blue Streak. I mean, especially like if we're going to go with like say the aligned continuity with how they reinterpreted Smokescreen for Prime.
Right.
Hmm.
It's
So
The only
strange to
complaint
think. Oh, sorry.
the complaint I have with him in Prime, like I said, like I love Prime Smokescreen. I love him, but my only problem is I just don't like the fact that I feel like this is more of a nitpick than anything. So don't take this as a personal attack, guys, but I just kind of wish that maybe he was Hot Rod instead of Blue Streak. I mean,
I'm the
Smoke.
same way.
Sorry,
I'm the same way.
I just feel I just can't help but feel like that character, that profile, that characterization was meant for Hot Rod, and it's just like, and they just again they kind of wussed out on it just because again they know Hot Rod's not well liked by older fans, even though I feel like at this point hatred has kind of died down these days, and any hatred you do see for the character, like on YouTube or whatever, it's really more played up for comedy than it is anything else.
True. Plus, he
But yeah,
got at least got to be a prominent character in Cyberverse.
true.
all right. Now,
So
moving
we're all in
on, we
agreement as
have.
B.
Yeah, I agree. Smokescreen is going to be an easy B, almost A. Next up, we have Grapple's partner in crime, Hoist.
Honestly,
And
Hoist for me is another easy B tier.
once again, I have to admit that again, going with the toy design is good, especially since he is a redeco of the G1 toy of Trailbreaker, so that really helped to keep them separate.
Right.
I agree. I think honestly, Hoist is another easy B tier pick for me, and it's like a lot of it, like I said, is like a lot of it again just comes from I love his personality. I love the characterization of Hoist. He's the Autobots' jovial maintenance engineer. Sure, he only really had one. Well, no, he actually like I get again, like you said, Tom, because he was Grapple's partner in crime. He actually got frequently used a little bit more in season 2 than some of the other new characters
Even
introduced
in
that
one
season.
of and this was a lot of competition. One of the weirdest episodes of the original series, Hoist Goes Hollywood. Yeah, that one.
That episode was kind of funny though.
Yeah, not
Totally.
one I'd. It's not one I go back to.
No, I understand.
No, I'm with you, Justin. It's like I actually think that's a fun episode. It's stupid but fun.
Yeah.
But I guess we all have those kind of ones where we can just watch it just for. You just need a stupid day.
That's one way to put it.
I think another reason Hoist belongs in B tier is because he has been brought back a few times, and in more recent years, he's actually been given a more prominent role. Like I like the fact that they used him in Rescue Bots Academy, and I love that he was very much in line with the original Hoist character-wise in that show. I think another one of my favorite things with Hoist in recent years in terms of his legacy following G1 is I love the Spotlight Hoist comic and IDW's comic where it's where the crew of the Lost Light is having to deal with a machine that makes them confront their worst fears, and Hoist is able to overcome it because what's funny is that it's also kind of a meta comic because it pokes fun at the fact that Hoist has had very little roles in most Transformers media. So it's kind of like his whole thing is like he has this very sense of isolation, but he's the one that ultimately saves the day and overcomes the machine because of the fact that he knows that he's not a significant character. He doesn't have as loud or boisterous a personality as some of his fellow Autobots, but he's personally okay with that. He doesn't, and I agree. We don't need all the Autobots to have these larger than life personalities. Sometimes it's great to just have at least one or more of them every now and then be the everyday guy.
Yeah,
I agree, and I find it funny how this is my podcast. Yeah, I think I've done the least amount of talking.
Hey, you're doing more than me, man.
No, I think you've done more than me.
That's mainly just because I'm not really good at like
I'm just making little jabs and pokes here. Next up, okay, so easy B tier for Hoist. Next up, we got Inferno.
Red Alert's partner in crime.
We
Honestly,
put Red
another
up.
easy. I think. Yeah, sorry. Oh, no, go ahead. Sorry.
Honestly, I'd say this guy just deserves another easy, at the very least B, if not an A, just because of the dynamic between him and Red Alert.
Yeah.
Also, because I think Inferno has had a lot more of his little spotlights and moments than Red.
Oh, I think I was gonna put him in B, but you talked me into putting him in A. And honestly, it does kind of feel like it's like the reason I feel like we put Hoist above Grapple on the tier list is just because, again, Hoist just has a much more more fun character. Grapple's cool and all, but it's just, again, I feel like he just didn't really get as much exposure as some of his other season 2 characters. So it's like I just feel like to a certain point, we don't really get enough of him to really have much of an opinion. I mean, granted, he was still a cool character, but it's just, I don't know. I just feel like Hoist had a leg up just because he was the straight man to Grapple's whole "I am an artist" personality.
All right. Next up, we have now.
How could you not love these odd couple duos? Sorry.
Next up, we have sadly one that's going to be pretty damn low, and that's just shame because I really loved his personification in the IDW comics, but we have Skids. And as much as it's going to hurt to put him in such a low point of the totem pole, it's mainly because he was barely around at all. And yeah, I know I'm probably going to get some major flack for that.
Honestly, I don't even remember much of what he did in G1.
That's because he was barely in the second season. Like, he was literally only in 2 episodes, but they're literally blink and you'll miss it moments. That's how insignificant he was to the plot, unfortunately. Tom, yeah. I agree with you. I love Skids to death. I love it. Again, I love his personality. I love his characterization. I love that he's a theoretician, so he's not really much of a fighter. I also like that he's a bit of a Daydreamer. I feel like that also kind of endears me to the character because I'm a bit of a Daydreamer myself on some level. But I definitely think I think Skids at least should be at C.
C? That high?
C. Yeah, I was gonna say C.
Like, you gotta admit, like, while he wasn't a significant character in the cartoon, he still has a legacy behind him. Because, like, even though we're not really factoring it in this based on the cartoon, it still helps his legacy he was a much more significant character in the Generation 1 Marvel comics. And like we also said, like, IDW really brought him back to prominence with how they utilize the character in their comics. I also just love how Teen Trainwreck in their comic dubs just made him Scottish. I don't know why, but that just I don't know why.
It just worked.
Fly.
You've probably just fucked over any chance I get of having an audience in Scotland. Thanks a lot, Hunter.
Yeah, that sounded more German to me.
Absolutely no idea if this is going to work, but in my head, it's genius.
Let's just get this going before you just give somebody a God knows nothing bullshit reason to cancel me, as if there aren't enough floating around in the world. And let's just move on to Windcharger, please.
So we're putting Skits in C, right?
Charger, I think, is honestly for me another easy C tier pick, just because, honestly, of the original Year 1 mini bots, my bad. I think Windcharger was the one that got underutilized the most out of all of them. Like, he was just
so underutilized, and yet he still left such an impact, in my opinion. So I can agree on that one as C. Just for what little we had, it was meaningful.
I think he only had 2 episodes where he played a major part in the plot.
I think so. Wasn't one of them the whole magnets thing?
Yeah, to be fair, he did also get another chance to shine in season 2 where he and some of the other Autobots were impersonating the Stunticons. I believe that was the Stunticon job.
Well,
That's a
actually,
fun
it's
episode.
funny we're talking about him because we're actually about to get into one of his buddies in the Fire on the Mountain episode, Brawn. Now, he is an easy between B and A tier simply because he was such a reoccurring character. He is just this man is a walking brick, and you loved it every minute he proved it to you on screen.
Oh yeah,
No,
Braun's another easy A tier just because like he just has such an awesome he's basically like the best way I can describe it. Basically, imagine if Ironhide was a midget.
Pretty much.
Best way to describe it. And again, if Travis Knight deemed him worthy of a live action appearance, that's gotta tell you something.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm convinced Travis included him because Braun has to be one of his favorites.
Now we have the ever lovable pessimist that more than likely served as the predecessor to Rat Trap, Huffer.
F tier, worst. No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
I was about to say, that's Huffer, my line.
I'll be honest, I don't hate Huffer. I really don't. But at the same time, I don't have much attachment to the character. I mean, granted, of the original mini-bots, I definitely think while he never had I don't think he really had much. I don't think he ever really had a spotlight.
Get on with it, Jesus. Sorry.
I don't think he ever really had a spotlight episode in G1. I will admit the fact that he was constantly always he was always the guy that's like you said, Tom, he's basically Rat Trap because basically his whole shtick almost every episode, like in the first season of the cartoon, was we're all gonna die.
Yeah, but somehow Ratchet Trap just made it so much more charming, if that's even the right word for it. So I'm afraid we're gonna have to put him in the way of the wheelie.
It couldn't lead a parade.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he does get. I think the only real time he ever shines is just in the, what was it? The episode Heavy Metal War, where he offers to carry Optimus's trailer after he was beaten by Megatron.
Well, that's something, certainly. But let's move on to Gears. Now, Hunter, could you maybe let some of us try to describe this character a little bit?
By all means.
Now, I mean that in the most respectful way. Now, as far as Gears go, yeah, he has been some of that character that has kind of sort of been in the background, and his design's a bit bizarre, but at the same time, when you got to his standalone episode changing gears and the way they handled it, you can't lie that it left some sort of impact, and at least enough for a C tier. I mean, the fact that the fact that his teammates were so flabbergasted, the fact that he was nice.
Honestly, I would even say he's maybe at least worthy of a B tier, just because I love the fact that he's a grumpy old man. He's the grumpy old man of the original art crew.
Even grumpier than Cup. That tells you something.
He was basically animated Ratchet before that was a thing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's kind of strange he's never really come back in other media.
No, that's why I feel like, yeah, I think maybe that's why the only reason maybe we can't rank him any higher is just because after G1, he just never really was a significant character. I mean, heck, even IDW never really did anything with him, which is kind of sad.
Well, moving on to characters that kind of fell in the same way, but came back with a rather appropriate kablam, is none other than Warpath himself. Now, before we get any further, the fact that he's classified as a mini-bot is such a crock of shit.
I think we all have a pet peeve with that.
To be fair, I think, to be fair, we feel the same way about the other two mini-bots that are on this list after him, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, fair enough, but still. But at the same time, you can't lie that it's a good thing that he sort of broke the chains of the mini-bot title, and now he's a proper juggernaut. I mean,
True.
case in point
Indeed.
would be the Dark of the Moon tie-in video game and the War for Cybertron games.
Definitely War for Cybertron.
Honestly, I think Warpath is an easy S tier, and my reasoning is just because out of all the classic mini bots from the first 2 years, from years 1 and 2 of G1, Warpath is ones that to me just has such a big, loud, lovable personality that just automatically puts him at the top of the list.
I
Just
think you
because.
just. Oh, sorry. I was just
No, you
saying,
go ahead, Justin. I'm sorry.
I was just saying. I thought you described it best. He's basically the robot equivalent of a guy with Tourette syndrome.
He's just
That's
sort.
that's
I mean, he's one of the rare cases where we have an Autobot who's just not a regular automobile. He's actually some firepower.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another reason I think he gets a little higher up for me is also why I'm perfectly fine putting him in S tiers. Not just because his personality, I love the fact that he's the lovable. He's basically a more he's such a big lovable oaf who loves a good fight, but at the same time he's also such a nice guy. But again, the fact that he's one of the few Autobots that turns into a weapon of war. In this case, I believe he's some type of Sherman tank. I think.
Could be. I honestly don't know what kind of tank he turns into.
Yeah, the fact that like you said, Tom, the fact that he's he's an Autobot that's some firepower behind him. Also, like I said, I just love the fact that, like I said, Justin, as we the fans have best described it with his constant use of automatopoeia, it's basically like a guy who with the equivalent of Tourette syndrome. Only instead of cursing, he's just making it's like he's saying comic book lines.
So,
Yeah.
and I love how that's played off more as less of a continuous speech pattern and just more something he does when he gets really going. Again, case in point would be.
Wham, kick some tail.
All right,
Sorry.
so let's move on to another one with a memorable, albeit freaking
Awkward.
weird episode, Sea Spray. Now, I'm just going to get out of the way right now. He was worthy enough of a name drop in Transformers Prime. That should give you a good clue on who we got here.
Right.
And might I mention also a figure in the Hunt for the Decepticons line.
Probably one of the best reinventions of a character in the modern day I've seen, period.
Is that the one you showed me the other day?
That's the one I showed. I still want to hunt that toy down. That's how cool it is. That is how you take a classic Generation 1 character and just reinterpret it for the modern era. And again, like I said, he's also one of the mini bots that I say, much like Warpath and the next guy after him, I call Bull on B vehicle because if you've seen the type of vehicle that Sea Spray is, it's not tiny.
Still, I sadly have to give him a C. I love his uniqueness, but I mean, and I love that he's gotten some chance to shine. But I mean, compared to some of the others on this,
I think he's at least worth of a B, my guy.
We got to start filling out these other tiers, man. You can't keep playing.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
Hear me out, though. Yeah.
Right.
Hear me out.
All right.
I agree. Admittedly, the first time you watch his showcase episode, yes, I admit it's definitely weird, but at the same time, I love the message behind it. Is that our outward appearances should not matter. What matters is how we feel about each other on the inside. And I think that's a good message to send to kids.
Right.
All right, you'll twist my arm on that one, but you don't expect all these free passes. We gotta start putting.
Oh, I know. I agree. I will admit the only thing that keeps Sea Spray from getting higher for me is admittedly, I don't like the gargling sound. Yeah, I get what they were trying to go for, and I do appreciate that it was the same voice actor who did.
It was the fish guy from He-Man.
So at least they had somebody that knew how to do that archetype, but at the same time, it's I don't know. I just feel like with an aquatic mermaid man villain, it works better, not with an Autobot, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Now we move on to Power Glide.
So wait, where are we putting him again?
We're putting him at B. Now, for Power Glide, now let me have my little spiel on this one now, because this is an interesting little journey I went. When I first saw Power Glide and saw that he was basically a replacement for Jetfire, I fucking hated him. I'm just gonna be straight up there. I fucking hated him. I thought his design looked just ridiculous. I thought he was annoying as hell. I was just like, fuck this and give me Jetfire, you pricks. Or Skyfire, as he was known in this cartoon. And when we got to the girl who loved Power Glove, I was just like, what were you smoking, people? But over the years, I softened up to him and realized that, okay, I can't complain. And we got some more flyers in the bot ranks. Beggars can't be choosers. And when I learned more about the licensing issues that Hasbro was having, so they couldn't use Skyfire all that much, I realized, you know what? I just had to learn to let it go. And over time, I started to warm up to him a little more.
Right.
Glide a lot. I think he's an awesome character. Again, I don't feel like his personality's too bad. I mean, I get where you're coming from, Tom, but it's like it still fit in line with the fact that the mini bots had the biggest personalities, and I feel like Jetfire is a good personification of that.
Jetfire?
You mean
Power Glide? Sorry, my bad.
And also mini bot. This motherfucker's an A10 fucking warthog. What are the requirements to being mini exactly? Especially in a show where bots change sizes, change colors, change everything on a whim, depending on how much sleep the animators got, I guess.
Sorry, that was funny. Or
let me guess, at least a B tier.
I was gonna say a B.
I would say he's at least worthy of an A, but I know that he's realistically that he probably doesn't belong. No, but I get it. Realistically, he doesn't belong there. I mean, the lowest I guess I can go, if you really want to put him that low, is maybe C.
Nah, I'm gonna give you a B, but shit, we got it. It's gonna be a while before we even think about filling out these other tiers, I feel.
I'm sure we'll get that once we get to the season 3 cast.
Now we got to the bot who gave us the quote for the B tier.
Beachcomber, automatic A.
Yeah.
Nothing else. His spotlight episode.
Yeah. All right, I'll give you this one, you goddamn hippie.
It's like, but hey, just be thankful that they never really. I love that Chris McFeely, by the way, shout out Chris, we love your work. Point out that Beachcomber, like, you know, he's it's really the fans that have given him the christened him the stereotype of a hippie, when in reality he's really not. He's just more of a pacifist by nature.
I know. Right. I just say that for the jokes.
I know. I mean, seriously though, animated, we're actually going to really lend heavily into the whole him being a hippie. I mean, like, to the point where he was going to be like a
dreadlocks.
All right, now this next
concept art for.
All right, this next one, I'm putting my foot down. We gotta put down the C. I love Cosmo. I think he's a lovable little just ball of joy, but at the same time, I feel like he was another case of they just needed a replacement for Skyfire, and admittedly, the whole flying saucer thing was just a little ridiculous. Like, it feels like they didn't even try to find an Earth mode. Now, granted, I don't like trying to showcase more Cybertronian modes. Okay, fine, I'll grant on that one. But again, you're having him be a mini bot, and yet you can have other characters fit in his ult mode. I guess that's not really much of an argument considering what show we're talking about here.
Yeah, like I don't think we should really factor that in much, because if so, a lot of these characters would probably be much at the bottom. But like, I agree, Tom. Like, I love Cosmos. I wholeheartedly love him, but admittedly, I can't put him any higher than C, just because. Again, I would say he kind of falls into the same problem that Gears and Windcharger do as far as mini bots go, in that he just. I mean, sure, he was definitely we got to see some action from, but he never really got to be much of a significant character. Also, I just find that like while I appreciate that his voice actor was trying to go for a Peter Lorre impression with the character, I just feel like it doesn't really fit Cosmos much.
I
I don't know, I
never
always
could
thought
figure
he
out what the hell that accent was.
Yeah, I always thought it was Scottish.
At least I was able to figure out the accent of this next character, which is good old Outback.
Honestly, I don't really have much to say about Outback. I don't hate the character, but he just was a major character. If I'm going to be honest, guys, I can't see him any lower than at least a D. I don't think he's worthy of F, but I can't see him any higher than, D tier, if I'm going to be honest.
No, I agree. I mean, he really hasn't. Okay, right. Really hasn't had much significant roles.
Next, we have once again another example of the toys being more the examples than just freestyling it. And once again, this is it. In this case, this is a character in the IDW comics. I wish I could just buy an ice cream cone for how badly he just gets worked.
Old Pipes. Honestly, I'm just gonna say this now, fellas. Like, I like Pipes, but again, I don't think I can see him any higher than D. Realistically speaking,
it's fitting that he's with Huffer there, considering that Hasbro decided to turn them into, not Mario and Luigi in the animated art book.
I still
Nintendo, calm your tits right now. Get your hand off that fucking copyright button, you pricks. Nintendo game. This is what just as a tangent. This is what I'll say about Nintendo. Your games, amazing. Your lawyers suck my.
Okay.
I guess.
I agree with you though, Tom. Like Pipes is cool. Like it's like IDW did such a great job of making him a character that I genuinely gave a crap about. But the problem is just that even outside of that, poor Pipes he's never really been a significant character in much of anything. So like I said, I can't really put him. I can't put him any higher than D.
I might need to do some reworking on what I said about Nintendo's lawyers in post. Mostly just so they don't just shove a briefcase up my ass.
Or you could just delete that altogether.
I wish you could see the death stare I am giving you right now, Justin.
Okay, then moving on. Next up, we got.
No, I'm not. Is that your just answer to everything? Just delete it.
I don't know.
I mean, unless it has good context, I'm kind of the same way. Just delete it and post.
I'll find something funny to do with it.
I'm sure you will. Next up, Swerve, another character who really got brought to prominence thanks to IDW's comics, but again, in terms
not
of
so
G1,
much in G1.
Yeah, again, I'm gonna be
honest.
It was
either him or Tailgate that just ended up getting the cartoon slapstick treatment of just getting stomped on by Trypticon.
Swerve. Yeah, it was Swerve because
that's about the only thing saving him from the E tier, because admittedly that was pretty damn funny.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm just gonna say it now, kind of jumping ahead here, I guess. I apologize for that, but honestly, good old Tailgate, I'm kind of the same way. Just put him in D tier just because, again, I like him, but just he was never a significant character in G1. That said, I love IDW Tailgate. I love the fact that, he's been name dropped a few times. Like, it was cool that he was RC's partner, Prime, even though I don't like the fact that he's just a remodeled cliff jumper.
Right.
Sorry if you hear cracking in my microphone. I was just cracking my knuckles. I'm going to have to give some audio warnings in this thing. Okay, we're not actually professional podcast makers here, so cut me some damn slack. Why did I say we? I'm the one that's going to be I'm the one that's going to be handling 99% of the other goddamn bullshit that's going to have to happen before this gets posted.
Right. Anyway, can I handle the next guy?
This is my favorite, but all right, go ahead.
Well, he's one of my favorites too.
Why don't you both Well, why don't you both give your piece?
Justin,
Look,
you first. You've been the quiet one.
Yeah, exactly. Good old I mean Skyfire.
Oh, fuck that. We're calling him Jetfire. We're giving him his name.
I'm gonna go with S just because of he's become such a prominent character in the series as a whole. And yes, even though he hasn't had much to do in G1, I do think his debut episode did leave an impact.
You basically just took the words right out of my mouth. And not only his debut episode, but what rare times we actually got to see him, it did leave an impact. It's just a shame that licensing and all that other hullabaloo just limited the use of the character, which I think could have been really cool throughout the duration of the series.
I agree, but he's become more of a prominent character in others, throughout the Transformers franchise.
Oh yeah, and the thing that I like most about Jetfire is that he throughout all of his appearances post G1, he's never really strayed far from his roots.
Yeah.
That's that rare consistency you don't see with that many characters in this franchise.
I mean, like in most of his appearances, he's a former Decepticon turned Autobot, except for like the few occasions. But even then, on the few times where, starting with the Unicron trilogy, but even then, like, still love that Jetfire as a character. Like, he's awesome. Like, I like the fact that he's a space shuttle.
And he's voiced by Scott McNeil.
Yeah, that definitely has some sway. But yeah, good old. I mean, like I agree with you guys. Like, it sucks that because of the licensing issues that ultimately he had to be quietly phased out of the cartoon. But to be fair, he was not phased out of the comics. So thanks to that, that really helped leave even more of a legacy for him. And like we said, now that he's a prominent character again, like it's like he's here to stay. And you know what? We're happy that he is because he's the original Autobot flyer.
Agreed. Yes. Now we've got another cool cat with a lot of good taste for music, depending on who you ask.
Dude, come on. Honestly, I think Blaster, is either he's either an easy S, or at the very least he deserves to be an A tier because dude is such a freaking awesome character, and he really was one of the characters in the second season that really got a lot of attention put on him when he was always a delight when he's on, when he was on screen. I love his rivalry with Soundwave and how it persisted throughout G1.
Yeah.
Blaster is just so.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Justin.
I was gonna say his rivalry with Soundwave persisted also like into the Japanese continuation Headmasters.
And not to mention, I love that it represents that Hasbro wasn't afraid to start blurring their lines between the dichotomy between the bots and the cons. Now they weren't afraid to, give the bots flyers and device formers, and the cons had a few car formers in their ranks. So, you know what? I'm gonna have to give you the S tier just because he represents that ability to start blurring the lines a little more. And speaking of, go ahead.
But before we move on, like, let me ask you guys, like, because I'm just curious to hear this, and I feel like this is a good place to ask it. Which personality for Blaster do you guys prefer? Because depending on what medium in G1 we're talking, he had two distinct personalities. There's obviously his cartoon personality, where he's very loud, very boisterous, but also just a lovable character. And then you have the Marvel comic, which kind of depicted him more as a serious character.
Personally, I don't think it's even a competition.
I don't know. I prefer the cartoon just because I think it makes sense more, giving his alt mode and the fact that he's an Autobot.
Great.
If that makes any sense.
Yep. All right, Tom, you got the floor with this next guy.
Now we get on to the next device former, a rather intellectual fellow with a penchant for very intelligent conversation, none other than Perceptor himself. The real hardcore scientist whose work doesn't involve exploding as much. No offense to our boy Jackie. Another character that I think not only in season 2 managed to get a lot of good attention, but also the 1986 movie, season 3, and made a big comeback come the 2010s with his appearance in Full Cybertron and his promise as a main cast member in the Machinima Prime Wars trilogy. Say whatever you want about that, but
Where
he
he's
was
played by Wesley.
yeah, but it was definitely a highlight for his character. So
Yeah, and he got to be in
easy,
Cyberverse.
easy A, gotta be damn close to an S in my opinion.
I would honestly say S, just because, like
Yeah,
you pointed out, Tom, just because like, not just in season 2, but he had a, he was one of the few second year characters whose toy was not discontinued, so Hasbro didn't kill him off in Transformers the movie, and he continued to be a prominent player throughout the rest of the Generation 1 cartoon. And again, to this day, he's still, many, as far as like nerd characters for Transformers go, especially among the Autobot ranks, Percy's the one that more people lean more towards, even more so than good old Jackie. So that alone says a lot about the character.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
Indeed,
true.
it does. Now we got a personal favorite of Chris McFeely himself, and one that has never really lost his grandiose whenever he arrives in new Transformers media, Omega Supreme himself. Again, a bot that opened the door wide open not only for his character, but just general lore for this franchise as it continued to evolve.
Right.
I'm just going to say it now. Like, I'm not trying to speed through this one, but again, I'm personally okay with giving Omega S tier simply because,
Mm.
Tom, I think you and I could both agree. Chris McFeely said it best. Omega has been used just sparingly enough, you know, in G1 and throughout his consistent roles throughout new media, that he never loses his oomph. I basically put him in S tier, the same reason I put Waybig in, S tier as far as like ranking Ben 10 aliens go. He's used sparingly enough that the guy never loses his oomph. It's always an event when he shows up.
I agree. So S tier it is. Now
Well,
I'm gonna let
plus
you
he
have the.
had his debut, his well, not debut episode, but his spotlight episode. Secret of Mega
Oh yeah,
Supreme, I think, kind of helped leave an impact.
Also, let's not lie.
episode.
We were all crapping bricks when we had when we were being chased by him in War for Cybertron.
Yep.
Probably about as much as
I mean,
Breakdown
imagine the Terminator. You make him the size of the goddamn Empire State Building. You give him the ability to fly, and you're in his crosshairs.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So anybody? So who wants to be the one to take a crack at this next guy?
Really, is there much to say about this guy?
I'll go
Just to
then. So
sort of call myself out and kind of leave me in the room for the ridicule, I completely forgot this guy's name. I haven't seen that episode in so damn long.
Dude,
Devcon,
same.
The Autobot bounty hunter.
You know what? Yes,
I am
You
the
know what? The fact that you bring up he's a bounty hunter, I think he was the catalyst eventually for none other than the most famous Cybertronian bounty hunter in this franchise, the Boba Fett of Transformers himself, Lockdown.
Well, actually, didn't you say Lockdown was more inspired by a character from the Transformers Marvel comics?
Death's Head. But to be fair, DevCon, I do agree, Tom. DevCon kind of did open the door for introducing bounty hunters. And the fact that he's not just a bounty hunter, but he's also an Autobot bounty hunter, meaning he is loyal to the Autobot cause. If I'm going to be honest, though, and don't get me wrong, I do love the episode he showed up in, the Gambler Smokescreen Spotlight episode. But if I'm going to be honest, like, I do think that does make him memorable. But personally, I don't see DevCon being any higher than at least a C, just because he was technically a one-off character that was created specifically for the cartoon.
A
That
one-off
said,
character getting
Did they
that.
not make any toys? Did they not make any toys of him?
No, he was. I think he was completely original to the show, and for a one-off character, just for that one episode, getting as high as a C. Honestly, I can't complain about that. That's impressive, honestly.
yeah. But to be fair, while he was only a one time, even though he only showed up once in the cartoon, he has actually showed up in a few of BotCon some BotCon material from over the years. Like he was used in the I believe it was the Transformers. What was it? I think he was in the Universe comic. I know he was in BotCon prequel comics that they did that was like a prequel to the Generation 1 cartoon. Like
Really?
he was utilized there. That was the same comic that explored the Combaticons origins in G1, which, get this, I'm only spoiling here because I don't think it's going to factor much when we get to them, but in that comic it was explained that the Combaticons were originally Autobots that were turned into Decepticons by Deathsaurus of all people.
Really?
Yeah. But like I said, I think Devcon's at least worthy of a C, just because he was, despite being a one-off character, he was pretty memorable, and a lot of fans do want to see him come back. In fact, you guys remember that and his name has been reused a few times. Like most prominently, you guys remember the spider Decepticon thing that was like a gun tank thing in Dark of the Moon? Yeah, that thing was called Devcon, just so that Hasbro could keep their trademark on it active.
Well, hopefully they get the chance to break that little card out in a capacity that would be meaningful for the character. But while we're talking about cartoon original characters, I don't think we could possibly insult this character with anything less of an S tier Alpha Trion. And I mean it. Anything lower is a goddamn insult.
I agree. Alpha Trion.
Yeah.
Like Trion has reached a point because of the card, thanks to his prominent, because he actually had several prominent roles where at least in the cartoon, where he showed up in several episodes. He wasn't just a one-off character.
Yeah, even though I don't think they made a toy for him, did they?
No, he was completely original for the cartoon.
Right.
Yeah,
again,
I mean, come on, this guy's the fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi of this franchise.
I would have said more of the Yoda, but yeah,
I almost said Yoda, but honestly, I just said that because of the damn beard.
I agree, but Trion, I agree, Tom. Trion has just reached a point in Transformers where he is so integral to the lore, and especially to Optimus Prime as a character, even in newer material that's based on Generation 1, or at least it has similar elements to G1. Trion continues to be a prominent character that I agree anything less than S would just be an insult to him. I am in complete agreement with that.
All right, somebody's gonna have to take a run with this next character because I do not recognize him. Don't please Broadside. Do not. Oh, that's Broadside.
Like
shit, I must be used to his IDW design. Now, how can we not talk about someone who just got the unfortunate end of ult modes on both cases, being a triple changer, afraid of water and flying? Poor bastard.
That never really factored into the cartoon, though. I think the cartoon, they never really... I think in the cartoon they ever factored that in. He just was like, okay, I can fly, I can swim. But no, I agree. It's like, with Buddy Ansky's original profile for him, Tom, I agree. Like, it's just hilarious just because it's like, again, afraid of water, afraid of heights, and look what he turns into.
We thought Blades had it rough. But anyway, I also gotta join the ridiculousness that he's a jet and a whole ass aircraft carrier. That is mass shifting that somehow rivals Megatron. I'm impressed.
Right? It's the opposite of Megatron.
I know. I mean, hey, at least
It somehow outdoes Astro Train.
This is true. Honestly, I'm really gonna be honest, boys. I think Broadside's at least worthy of a C tier.
Of course. Well, I can't complain too much. We gotta fill out these lower tiers, so I'll grant you the C. Next up, we have another character that's shown up just sparingly enough to never lose his grandiose.
Metroplex.
I'll be honest. I'm torn between putting Metroplex in either an S or an A. What do you guys think?
Easy A if we don't decide on S for my case, because he's another character that has remained relatively consistent throughout this franchise. I mean, and who didn't just lose their shit or drop their jaw upon seeing that Metroplex was gonna be in the full Cybertron game?
I know I did.
That never loses its impact for me.
Oh, it does not. You know what? I agree. I think he's at least an easy S because, again, like Omega, he's used sparingly enough that, again, he never loses the grandiose factor of him.
Now, I only have one way to describe this next character. What in God's holy name are you, and why do you exist?
Good old Skylynx.
Yeah, this is just one of those characters where I'm just like, what in the holy hell is this? What am I looking at? This just it was one of those things where I was scratching my head ever since I've seen this character. Like, I could not wrap my head around him at all. I'm just like, what in God's name?
You were gonna say, Justin?
I was gonna say, like, I don't know, he's a robot griffin, maybe?
He's supposed to be a dragon. That's what he looks like to me. I'm gonna be honest,
I agree.
Guys.
His design is kind of strange, but I actually kind of like Skylynx.
I think we should at least put him in B tier just because he was a significant character in G1, and you know, I admit I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I like him enough that I think he's at least worthy of B. Like, I like the fact that his robot mode is essentially a beast mode, which is interesting. It was the first time we'd ever had that in Transformers. I mean, outside of like Soundwave and Blaster's mini cons.
Right.
Fair enough, also, but still, I just scratched my, I just still like really scratched my head on the general approach with him. But I guess why should I start? Why should I start asking questions now?
I give him props for thinking outside the box with this one.
All right, I'll grant you that one. You guys keep.
And I do.
Oh.
And I do love his personality. Like I said, I do love his personality. Admittedly, like, I know some people like it's weird that we're putting such a big personality like Skylynx, at least in B. And I'm like, the problem is just like it's because he has too big of a personality, or I guess an ego that kind of hurts him a little bit with us. I feel like that's why like the only reason we're not putting him any higher than B.
Yeah, a lot of his or at least a lot of the stuff he say can get kind of annoying.
Indeed. Now I'm gonna let you guys chinwag about Sandstorm. I'm gonna go get something to drink. My mouth's a little dry.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Let me put Sandstorm. I'm thinking either B or C.
I would definitely say he's at least C, and the reason is just because I like Sandstorm. Like, I especially love his
debut episode. Oh, sorry, go on.
Just that, but I do like his debut episode, even though admittedly Rodimus Prime kind of says something that's kind of dickish in that episode, like because his home planet Sandstorm's home planet gets destroyed, and he's like, "It's okay, Cybertron's way better." It's like, dude, so not the time to say this.
Yeah, I know.
But like, I also love his Generations toy, which also became like his new look in IDW's comics, where he's like a VTOL aircraft. and like
Right.
in a dune buggy. Like, I know some people don't like the VTOL. Personally, I like it just because it differentiates him from Springer a little more.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. He's not just a regular helicopter.
I do like Sandstorm. I think he's cool. He's definitely one of my favorite Wrecker characters. But again, I just feel like in terms of like Generation 1 specifically with the cartoon, like he wasn't a prominent character, like, and he
Yeah, I
was
think
kind
because
of
his
used.
only, I think because like the only other than
The other
his
episode
debut
he had
episode
was,
was when he's friends with Octane.
which I think even that was only just a one-off thing.
All
Yeah.
right, run it down to me. We're replacing Sandstorm.
See.
We're putting him in C with Broadside just because we don't think he's disworthy of being any high. We don't think he's worthy of being any higher, but he's definitely nowhere near low tier either.
All right, now this is
All right, so
important.
next
Now,
up,
hang on,
all
hang
right,
on.
hold up. I feel like okay, hang on. Well, the thing is, like, I feel like we need to ask this question because I think it is. This is where I feel like we need to ask this question because I think it's going to affect our rankings with other groups on this list too. Since now we're getting into subgroup territory within the factions, it's like,
I
are we
was just about
ranking them?
I was about to say the same
Yeah,
thing.
okay.
Now,
I'm sorry.
do we rank them all together or do we rank them separately? And in this case, I know you're gonna hate me for saying this, but I think we have to make this one exception. If anything, because when it comes to the Dinobots, and let's just face it, Grimlock's been the one that's always been the standout. Whether it be his alt mode, whether it be the way he is in the cartoon, whatever the factor, Grimlock's always been the de facto Dinobot.
Can't
Honestly,
argue with that. Can't argue with that.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like I said, this is going to be a hard one because, like I said, are we when it comes to the subgroups are within the factions, are we ranking them individually or as a whole unit? Because I definitely feel like that,
No,
like
I think
the
Grimlock is.
Dinobots,
I think I agree with Tom that Grimlock's probably going to have to be the only exception because
at
really
least as
like
far as the Dinobots go.
yeah, because especially like in G1 because when season 3 hit, he was more prominent than any of the others.
I agree. Like, but and like I said, I definitely think Grimlock is an easy S tier just because, again, his iconic design, iconic voice that Greg Berger gave him.
Right.
In almost all of his appearances, except for a few here and there, Grimlock's overall look, in terms of, I mean, like, his iconic gray, red, and yellow color scheme has remained remarkably consistent.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Now, when we get down to the rest of the Dinobots, and let's just get down to brass tacks, they all sort of balance each other out. We love Slag's fiery personality. We love Sludge's just dumb yet lovable antics. We love that Snarl sort of the grumpiest, and we just love the friendly nature of Swoop. So I think they all balance each other out enough to get an A tier just below Grimlock.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I think they all should be linked in A.
I agree. I'm fine with that. I definitely think, like, maybe
Plus,
in the
out
case,
of
like, and
all,
this is just,
sorry, I was gonna say, plus out of all Transformer teams, they're probably one of the most iconic, or well, not most iconic, but most beloved.
Even though they're not
I mean, the fact that
even though they weren't a combiner originally.
Right. Because I think James Rolfe said it best. It doesn't take as much intelligence as Grimlock to figure it out that robots plus dinosaurs equals awesome.
I agree. So I think maybe we should just stick with the whole, to a certain point, unless a certain member of the group stands out, we will just rank them all as we will rank them all for the most part together.
And
Yeah.
it's
Like that.
ironic you say that because now we are on to one of my favorite combiner teams, the Aerial Bots.
Oh, dude, the OG Autobot combiners.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's be honest. These are the guys that these guys, along with Powerglide and Jetfire, broke the mold. And you know what? Just throw Swoop in there too, because even though he's not a jet or anything, he's still a flyer, being a Pteranodon. It's like
Yeah.
now the Autobots had some aerial support, which they desperately needed.
And
I know,
once
right?
again, I feel like we need to put Jetfire just a little bit. I mean, if not just keep him with the rest of the Aerobots, but Jetfire was definitely the standout.
You mean Silverbolt?
Jesus Christ. Yeah, Silverbolt. Don't judge me, it's late. And we've been recording for how long?
About an hour.
Yeah, wow, you were actually almost on the damn dot. It's been about 57 minutes.
Really?
I definitely think. No, I agree. I agree. I think Silverbolt is at least, if not an easy S, I would say at least an easy A, just because out of all the aerial bots, he really stands out the most. Not just because of the fact that, he's a flyer that's afraid of heights, but in their debut episode, he was the only one that was like, hey, I'm an Autobot. I'm with you, Optimus. Whereas the rest are kind of just like, man, screw you. We do what we want to do.
All right, the rest I say are a very easy B tier in my opinion.
Really, I was kind of thinking of listing them all in A, but I think I can see where after what Hunter said, yeah, I can kind of see what you mean.
Again, they're at least B tier because, they're still cool characters, and again, it still puts them high up.
Plus, Aerie was able to stand out on his own when it came to the War for Cybertron games.
Oh yeah. I mean, completely suck for the job as a guy scared of heights. It's a compliment.
Now we get on to the Protectobots, and this is a standout character that isn't actually the group's leader, and that would be First Aid, if anything because of his Season 3 debut that really emphasized his pacifism.
Right.
I think, honestly, I think First Aid is at least worthy of an A.
Up there with Silverbolt.
Yeah, just because, again, that one episode really helped elevate him above his team. And to be fair, it's kept with him and it has been kept with the character to a certain extent, which is kind of ironic considering of the original Protectobots when, the profiles written for them by Bob Budiansky, surprisingly, it's Groove that's the pacifist, but in the cartoon, they kind of gave that to First Aid. But honestly, if I'm going to be...
I think it makes more sense since he's a medic.
I agree. Like, it feels like First Aid feels like Andrew Garfield's character from the historic drama film, Hacksaw Ridge. Like,
Desmond Doss. I know exactly what you're talking about. Desmond Doss, the man who went to war without a weapon. Which fun fact about that movie, they actually had to play down his feats in Hacksaw Ridge because people would have thought it would be too unrealistic what he was able to accomplish. Dead to rights, dead to God. I'm dead goddamn honest on that. You find a Bible, I'll swear to it.
Believe it. Yeah, the other Protectobots, I'll be honest, the Protectobots are low-key like one of my favorite Autobot combiners, and it's just kind of sad that they don't get utilized very much.
I feel like they had to have been the catalyst for the Rescue Bot series.
Like, right? But if we're just looking at the team as a whole, like I said, I think First Aid's at least worthy of an A. The others, the lowest I'm willing to go is at least a C. The highest I think I could go for them is maybe B.
C, I was surprised by, but I think we just need to start filling out C a little more because we're about to have a lot more high listers.
Great, so let's get them all in there. So,
all right, sorry guys.
Street Watch. We still love you though.
Don't get this wrong. You guys are still awesome.
It's kind of sad that it's kind of sad that for the combiner teams, their combiner forms aren't listed here because I feel like those would, but maybe that's for the best. But because I feel like all of them, for them, like most of them, would be high up on the list.
Yeah.
All right, so now we do the female Autobots.
And once again,
with this first one.
I just want to say in general, this was just another breaking of the glass ceiling, if I'm allowed to say that. And this might be something of a pain in the ass to go through just because of the modern political atmosphere. But let's just keep this into the context of the 80s. Okay. So let's try not to go borderline misogynists here, people. As for any MGTOWs, get the fuck out. Okay, my spiel's over. Hunter, you'll take the floor with the first one.
Really? Okay. I'm cool with this. So yeah, Alita 1, who okay, like this is probably gonna be an obvious one, but honestly, I think Alita's at least worthy of an S or at the very least an A, just because you know, he was, you know, I would the reason I put her in S is just because she has left such an impact on Transformers as a whole because of her debut in the Generation 1 cartoon. And again, despite being a cartoon original character that had no toys of her,
Well, to
it's
be
like
fair, making a toy of her would be pretty hard.
yeah, but you get my point. But like
Yeah.
I said, it's like the reason I would at least put her in S tier is for the same reason I put RC there is I mean honestly, all the female Autobots, like I said, they owe their existence to RC because you know, because after RC was going to be made in the movie, that kind of opened the doors. And so that's why while Transformers the movie was in production, you know, the season 2 episode Search for Alpha Trion debuted the female Autobots. And the reason I would put Alita in S tier is for the same reason I would basically, as I like to call her hubby there, because you know, she basically is, as we see in the cartoon, a female Optimus Prime. She's
Yeah,
pretty
pretty
much
much.
she's a badass warrior that knows how to take charge, but at the same time deeply
She's
cares for those
compassionate.
under her
Yeah.
command.
Right.
The fact that she's continuing to make appearances in more recent media with animated, where she was reinvented as Black Arachnia, interestingly of all things, really like
Yeah.
that twist. You know, I will admit I'm not the biggest fan of her IDW incarnation, but the fact that she at least was there, I appreciate. I actually really like her for what little of her we saw in the War for Cybertron Netflix trilogy.
Yeah. And well,
And
looks like
it,
she's getting a more prominent role in Earthspark.
So,
I agree. So
so it's nice to see this whole thing come full circle. So, she is a very easy S tier, if anything, just because of the impact she left in that episode and her continue, and how that just left an arrow through time for the rest of this franchise.
hoping I just want to say before we move on to the next lovely lady on this list, really hoping that with Earthspark they will acknowledge that Prime and Alita are a thing.
Yep. Now we get on to Chromia, who I argue is a close second to Alita 1 herself.
Chromia is at least an easy. Oh shit!
What's
But
wrong?
Sorry, I accidentally clicked off the tier list. Sorry.
Jesus alive,
Uh,
man.
I accidentally clicked something I didn't want to click and it wouldn't let me go back. But sorry. But no, like I think Chromia is at least worthy of an easy A because while she hasn't been as prominent as Alita, but to say that she also hasn't left an impact, I think would be kind of like would basically be a crock of crap if we're gonna be honest.
Right.
I'm
She has
inclined to
more of
agree.
a prom. Well, she has a more prominent role in the IDW comics, doesn't she?
Yeah, her and a lot of the femmes.
And she
Now,
was
y'all might hate me for saying this, but I feel like Firestar and Moonracer here, if I have to do a double, are gonna have to be relished to be. I still love their personalities, but just sadly, Hasbro hasn't been brave enough to bring these two along as they have been with Alita and Chromia.
No, I agree.
I would
It is
actually
sad.
argue I would agree. I agree. Moonracer is B, but I would actually put Firestar at C, just because. I just feel like of all the female Autobots in that episode, she was probably the one that was underutilized the most.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because Moonracer at
Moonracer,
least got some like resurface.
and well, also just the fact that Moonracer is. I feel like we just get more of a sense of who she is in that episode. Her and Chromia.
Yeah.
All right, I'll grant you that one. Um,
I think this is green light. If I'm not mistaken. honestly, I think easy. I would think honestly D tier, just because she was just kind of a background character.
Yeah.
Sadly,
Well,
but
she's given
Only
more
been in. She's given more prominence in the IDW,
IDW
comics, both
comics.
their first, both in the 1.0 universe, where interestingly she and other female G1 Autobot, Lancer, who interestingly is not on this list, were actually a canon lesbian couple. And again, in the new rebooted continuity that IDW started, where she's in a committed relationship with RC all people, and they're both essentially the adopted parents of crap, what is her name? The little
Mainframe.
not Glyph. No, not Mainframe. What is? Hang on, I'm just doing some research real
I think
quick.
I remember what you're talking about because I saw a panel of that of RC getting bad pissed at something that was said about that character, and yeah.
Trying to find her. Who is it? What is it? What is it? Is this character Gage? That's it, Gage.
Ah.
Oh yeah, her and Greenlight in the new stuff are kind of the adopted parents, so to speak. They basically become the adopted lesbian moms of Gage, and I just find that wholesomely adorable.
IDW seems to know how to handle that stuff just so tactfully.
It's not forced down your throat as part of an agenda, but that's about as political as we're gonna go.
I was trying to keep that. I was actually trying to keep that complimentary. Thanks a lot, Hunter. We are just opening. We are opening all the goddamn floodgates on this one, aren't we?
Well, let's not open anymore and move along.
Can we? Like I was saying, IDW. Not only are they able to handle their inclusion so damn well, but they weave it seamlessly. I mean, take some notes, people. That is how you do it.
Agreed. All right, so next up we got the Technobots. I guess we could just lump them all together since they all kind of just blend together.
Yeah, the only one that's really stood out over the years is Scattershot, and even then, that was later media, not necessarily the G1 cartoon. And y'all might hate me for saying this, but as cool as they are as a concept, we're gonna have to put them in the seat just because their utilization was so limited. But at the same time, their concept and how they came to be was once again weird but interesting. You'll find me describing that a lot throughout this tier list if I haven't already.
No, I agree. I'd lump them with C.
I agree. Like, of the Autobot combiners from the original series, they were kind of the ones that, like, I don't know. I mean, they were definitely more prominent than the Protectobots, but even then, but again, just as a whole, the unit didn't really have any standout characters. I mean, again, I like their debut episode, Grimlock's New Brain. Like I said, the fact that it's Grimlock of all people that creates them is just friggin' hilarious, and I love it.
Didn't Greg Berger also say that was one of that's like his favorite episode?
The Flowers to Algernon parody, which honestly fits a character like Grimlock. All right, so next up we got the Throttle Bot.
I feel like the only
one that stands out. The only one that stands out is definitely Goldbug, and that's just because again he is technically.
Took every fucking word I was about to say out of my mouth, dude. Like, what the hell? I'm laughing about it, honestly.
Sorry.
Now, okay, I get it, but I feel like giving Goldbug such a big jump in the tier list just because he was of his connection to Bumblebee, I feel like that's cheating majorly.
Yeah, I was thinking putting Goldbug maybe like B.
Even then, I think that's being kind of generous.
I feel like he's at least worthy of a B because while he's technically an upgraded Bumblebee, he wasn't as utilized as Bumblebee was. So I definitely think that affects that as well. That said, I personally like the fact that in more recent years, Hasbro has not been afraid to reinvent the character as his own separate character from B, which I think is kind of more fitting. As for the rest of the throttle bots, I think personally, guys, I'm perfectly fine with putting them in the bottom tier, just because again, I genuinely have no thoughts or connections with these characters, and that's really the only reason I put. That's the only reason I put them in the bottom tier, is just because I'm putting them in the bottom tier is just because I don't really have much opinion on them. Like, they're okay, but they're kind of forgettable, if I'm going to be honest, and that's saying a lot considering, the other mini bots are kind of more memorable than they are.
It is really. Right. I didn't think we were going to have a single character in the E tier, so I'm genuinely surprised by this one. But fortunately, we don't have that much longer to go before we get to the Decepticons.
All right, next up is Wreck-Gar.
What about the red one? I'm going to be honest
here, guys. I think
there's a red guy here. Right before Wreck-Gar.
That's one of the throttle bots.
Oh, I didn't recognize him because you didn't have the same chest design.
Really have the same chest to a certain point.
I want to put Wreck-Gar in A.
Easy A. Easy, just because, the movie did such a great job making him such an awesome character. I love the fact that he's voiced by Eric Idle.
Yeah. You gotta love the fact that he talks TV. Humor. You gotta love the fact that his nipples are guns.
I was gonna say something about that. Damn, beat me to it.
Welcome to my world.
I just love Wreck-Gar. I just love Wreck-Gar as a whole. Like, he's such a lovable character that putting him any lower than A, I feel is any lower than A is just kind of a disservice to the character, because he has left such an impact, because he continues to make appearances in more media today.
Now we got some of the other Junkions.
Which personally okay with putting the Junkions in C tier, just because they're
don't you think that's being cool, a little generous?
To be fair, what elevates them a little higher is just because of the fact that they are Wreck-Gar's people, so that kind of elevates them above some of the others, in my opinion.
How about that, Throttlebots? You're more trash than the literal trash.
Sorry, that was actually
just
really
find
good.
The Junkion. That is funny, but I just find the Junkions conceptually a little more cooler than some of the other guys we have in the lower tiers. Like, I love the fact that they are literally Cybertronians whose home planet is basically the cosmic dumping ground of the universe, and they've adapted to the point where they're virtually indestructible. They literally can pull themselves out of the ground.
Yeah, in the original script, they were meant to have kind of a Mad Max Road Warrior vibe to them.
They still do, honestly.
Yeah, definitely in their designs.
Now we finally get on to the Decepticons. And once again, I don't think we need to shoot the shit about this first contender and anywhere else he stands on this list. Because any lower, he probably... Thank you for ruining my joke.
Okay, bro. Okay, cut. Take 3.
I was going to say putting him in any lower would probably result in all of us being atomized.
Yeah, pretty much. They'd want us hung by our entrails.
Come on. But yeah, come on. Like, where else is Megatron gonna go but the S tier? This guy is the eternal antithesis to Optimus Prime. He is so just as like, I love to take a quote from the writers of the 07 movie, because I think they put it so elegantly when they were talking about the robot cast for the movie in a thing they did for Yahoo.
Yeah.
Just as you can't have Transformers without Optimus Prime, and you can't have Optimus Prime without Megatron. It's just a rule.
You are so damn right about that. And I'm just going to save us some time on this one because we're already pushing our limits. I mean, come on. Soundwave, Shockwave, Starscream.
And Starscream.
I mean, do we really
yeah.
need to spend any time with these guys? I mean, and unfortunately, I didn't hook the OBS up with my soundboard, so I can't really do the voice to describe Soundwave at this point. And honestly, I don't want to do it because I don't want to futz with the settings. But you already get to the point. These three are already up there in S with Megatron.
Agreed.
I mean,
I was gonna have a whole speech set up too, but you pretty much just took the words right out of my mouth. And what were you gonna say, Hunter?
Soundwave, the loyal, intelligence officer. Shockwave, the cold and emotionless scientist. Yeah. Starscream, the forever ego-driven, power-hungry second in command.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Notorious backstabber in all of fiction.
I just figured I could help us speed run a little bit of this, just because we still have a ways to go, even though there are less Decepticons in this list. But now we move on to the other two famous Seekers, Skywarp and Thundercracker. Now I know Skywarp didn't get as much, but I feel like if you're gonna have Skywarp and Thundercracker, they gotta have a package deal, and I think TC helps them elevate at very least to a B.
Like, they're easily. Oh shoot! Now what did I do?
God damn it, Hunter!
I keep fucking up my thing. I'm sorry, but yeah, I agree, Tom. Like, putting these guys any lower. I mean, because I feel like they're the reason they belong in B tier is for the same reason why I feel like why we have a character like Prowl there is because, yeah, in context of G1, yeah, the two of them were never really significant characters, but that's not to say that but at the same time, similarly to Prowl, they have just left such a mark on the franchise that you really can't put them any lower than B, because they are such iconic characters. Like especially my boy Thundercracker. Like, you guys know, Thundercracker is probably my favorite Seeker, probably even more so than Starscream, and I am not ashamed to say that.
Yeah. I think the IDW comics kind of helped that out a bit.
Indeed, they did. Now, as much as it pains me to say this, because this concept of this character right here is so fascinating for me, and I freaking called it that he would be used as a troop build for the Siege cartoon, I feel like we're gonna have to put him into D, just because he was sadly so underutilized. And this is, of course, I'm referring to is Reflector.
Yeah, that is.
Yes, not Refractor. Like, it's weird. Like, it's like, because here's the thing. Originally, Hasbro was going to release his toy with the other first-year characters, but for whatever reason, they just pulled back the decision on that for reasons that we still don't really know. And it's also why Reflector was never really much of a significant character in the Marvel comic either, because he got downplayed. But the reason they kept him in the cartoon was because they realized, yeah, we kind of need more numbers for the Decepticons, at least just a little bit, just to even things out a little.
Yeah.
Right.
But
I think Reflector accepts, but no, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
I just think Reflector is just waiting for that right story writer to just utilize him perfectly. Like, he's out there.
I agree. He or she.
All right, fire. Let's hedge our bets.
Next up, the Insecticons. Again, I feel like we can comfortably lump these guys together, because
I say lump them together in A tier at the very least, because I mean, all three of them really had their chance to shine.
Yeah, can't argue with that. Both their debut episode and every episode. They're kind of the first, rogue Decepticons, if you think about it.
Really kind of were, Justin. I was just about to bring that up. It's like, it was weird. It's like, I mean, sure, somebody could argue Starscream's a rogue, but honestly, I would say that more fits the Insecticons with how the G1 cartoon depicted them, because
I mean, there was an
Or
episode where they got so out of control, the Autobots and Decepticons had to team up.
uh, especially because they almost caused a nuclear explosion to happen.
I know, right?
Yeah, so that says more than enough you gotta say about them, because especially since they've managed to stay a trio all the way up to the Fall of Cybertron game. Granted, due to copyright stuff at the time, a couple names had to be changed, but all in all, we still managed to get the original trio.
I guess
Yeah,
one
that's
could
all
make
I
the
think.
argument if there's one that stands out is Shrapnel, but that mostly just because of his his whole repetition gimmick. But even then, I think that's kind of stretching it. But
Yeah.
I'm perfectly
So,
fine with putting these guys in the A tier. They're fine.
Now we
yeah,
got the Constructicons, and once
Decepticons.
again, we could pretty much clump them together because it's because all six of them, you can really get their personalities, even with what little short time we get between all of them.
I would honestly, I already have this in mind, guys. But if you're willing to hear me out, I would actually say these guys are easy S tier for a
I was
number of
gonna say
reasons.
S. I was gonna say S, and
Uh,
mainly because out of all the combiners, they are the most iconic.
Yeah, there was no way I could argue for anything less than S out of these guys.
yeah, because let's be honest,
Anyway,
they were
what
the
else?
first combiner.
You're
They were the first. They were the first combiner team. Then they basically popularized that concept. Uh, they also, I think, get a leg up over most others because they're one of the only. They're some of the only characters that appeared in every season of the cartoon, plus, of course, the '86 movie, and they remained remarkably consistent over the years to a point that not many other combiner teams really can boast. Like, their iconic purple green color scheme has been replicated so many times.
yeah.
And even though, yeah, there are other, even though, yeah, like Bruticus, as you guys know, is my favorite Decepticon combiner, but there's no getting around the fact that Devastator is just the OG. He's the classic. He and the Constructicons, they just age like fine wine.
Yeah,
Oh
we
yeah.
got. Alright, I totally get you on that one. Now, we keep seeming to get like the good group lumps to really speed this along, and fortunately, it is the Secret Trio that the Decepticons recruited from Wish.
Yeah, we have the Coneheads, Thrust, Dirge, and
And
Ramjet.
Ramjet. That was funny because
Honestly, guys,
sorry, that was just fun.
no, that is funny as hell. Honestly, boys, I'm okay with putting them in C.
See, it
Yeah,
is.
They're not they're not terrible, but they're
they don't
just
really
not as
get
memorable
used that
as
much.
six.
There was a reason Transformers Devastation used them as cannon fodder.
Guys.
Yeah.
Next up,
Oof.
Trypticon.
He's up there
Another
with Metroplex and
I
Omega Supreme.
feel like it would be unfair not to put him up there with the Metroplex and Omega.
I can completely agree. I love Trypticon. I think easily my favorite depiction of him is the Fall of Cybertron Trypticon.
Same.
Same.
Does he actually feel just because I like the fact that he's more than just a big dumb brute?
Next
Right.
up,
No,
we got.
he's a sinister brew, like in the War for Cybertron games.
Oh, he is. Now, next up, we have a. Next up, we have another. We just keep. I'm sensing a pattern here.
That's
Yeah,
what the
it really is
Decepticons
just
have more teams than the Autobots.
I'm sensing we're just clumping more Decepticons together than the Autobots.
well, to be fair, this is something that I will get to with some of the other with a few characters we have coming up on the list. But the reality is most of the Decepticons, it's like, yeah, they like as far as their depiction in the cartoon went, which is kind of the big basis for most media, most of them are kind of just generic henchmen.
They've
I'm not
they
Yeah.
saying that as a
definitely
bad
got a
thing.
lot more season in the sun when it came to the future mediums.
Yeah, like I
And
like
as far as henchmen goes, you kind of get that same vibe from. No, hush my mouth, because when you think about the Stunticons, really, once again, you have a group that was able to stand out in their personalities despite their limited screen time. So I'm just gonna hush my damn mouth about the Stunticons.
I think they're at least worthy of a B.
I'd argue an A, because in their debut and since, they proved to be a big obstacle to the Autobots, who just ruled the roads throughout the majority of the series. Like, the Stunticons gave them a real run for their money. Not just then, not just there, but since. I mean, hell, two of them were able to run Rodimus off the road and get the Matrix.
Dang it.
What?
I hate these freaking mouse pads. These touch mouse pads on computers. They're too damn sensitive.
But what do you think of my description?
You know what, Tom? You convinced me. I think they're at least worthy of A. I mean, they are memorable, if for nothing else than the fact that, for the time we had Decepticons that were, like you said, they gave the Autobots a run for their money, because now we had a group of Decepticons that were, kings of the road, so to speak.
Next,
and they managed to beat Bruticus. Which, speaking of which,
now we have the Combaticons, and now we can finally break the mold of just lumping all of these characters together, because we have the standout of this group, Swindle.
Definitely. Swindle, I think he's at least an easy S, just because, again, he is such a standout personality.
The fact that it just took one episode for a combiner limb, much like, and it came out, we're ranking him higher than First Aid here.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, hell, if he was enough to have, a creator of a future Transformers series just have to have him, then that's saying something.
Yeah, but having said that, the rest of the Combaticons are still a good A tier, because, not only because of their debut in Starscream's Revenge, only because of the brilliant two-parter with between Starscream's Brigade and Bruticus's Revenge, but ever since then they've proven to just be a elite task force for the Decepticons, especially in the Fall of Cybertron game.
Really, which the Cybertron games really tapped into the idea of depicting them as like the SEAL Team 6 of the Decepticons.
Yeah,
which is just awesome. Which is both awesome and terrifying.
I just had to go on my spiel, because the Combaticons are my favorite combiner.
Nothing wrong with that.
Dude, same. I'm right. Dude, you took the words right out my mouth. All right, next up we get into Galvatron.
Now, as much as I love the concept with Galvatron, and as much as I appreciated them finding a ways to do something different, I think we had to rank him lower, if anything, because while he is impressive, he's an utter lunatic. It was nowhere near as effective as Megatron.
He definitely became less effective after he got exposed to
the plasma. Yeah.
Plasma energy, which really screwed with his head. Honestly, though,
but he did destroy the lowest I would probably the lowest I would probably go with him, Tom, is at least A. But again, I would say Galvatron is at least worthy of an S, just because, well, sure, in his own way, he's not as effective as Megatron. He's just as iconic as Megatron, in my opinion. Because again, Galvatron continues to get depicted in more and more media, since his debut in '86.
All right, I see where you're going with this, but I feel like we need only one of Unicron's Herald in this. And hear me out. I think Cyclonus is more worthy of that S tier, if only because he can be such an outlier when it comes to Decepticons and how he handled things in the cartoon and how he's been depicted ever since. Galvatron and Scourge, easy A tiers, I would argue, but Cyclonus is an S, especially with how different especially with how just unique of a depiction he got, not only between the rest of the Decepticons, but how they just built on that in the IDW comics.
Like Cyclonus is easily my favorite Unicron's heralds.
He's definitely got the coolest design. Well, next to Galvatron, because I actually really like Galvatron's design.
Galvatron looks awesome, even if admittedly I do kind of feel like, I'll admit, like Floro Deary's original design was all right, but I think they did the right thing redesigning it further for the movie.
Yeah.
Just making him look making him a little thicker. Scourge.
Yeah. So we're putting Galvatron in A and Cyclonus in S, right?
Yep. Scourge, I also agree with Tom. I think he's at least he's worthy of an A tier at the least.
Yeah. He definitely has the weakest design out of the three, but
I actually really love his design, and I don't care what anyone says. I can see a future depiction of this Scourge being voiced by Corey Barton doing his Count Dooku voice.
That would be cool.
That would be cool.
Definitely. I feel like of the three, though, like, again, he's definitely left an impact just as much as Cyclonus and Galvatron have, but I definitely feel of the three, Scourge is probably the one that has been revisited the least.
Yeah. And
so the fact, I mean, it's to the point where his name has been utilized for two completely separate characters. One being an Optimus Prime clone in Robots in Disguise, 2001, and the other being a three-headed dragon from Transformers Cybertron.
All right, I'll grant you that one.
Well, he's going to be the main antagonist in Rise of the Beast, so we'll see what that does.
True. Although I think they are putting him more on RID Scourge, but we'll see.
Yeah, because he's going to be a truck.
All right, but next we get to the Triple Changers, and these ones I can actually not just lump together. So for me, Octane C to D tier, because sadly he wasn't utilized all that much, and admittedly, like, his modes don't really fit in terms of putting up much of a fight for the Decepticons.
So were we putting him, D or C?
D. Putting him, yeah, I think he's at least a D tier, just because he really was, of all the Decepticon combiners, like, also just because what doesn't help is that of the Decepticon triple changers, he's kind of the one that time kind of left behind.
Now,
I mean, sure, he still gets toys, but sorry, it's all right. He still gets new toys, but let's be honest, he's really never been too significant of a character. But again, I feel like much like Reflector and maybe even some of the other characters we've done, I think Octane's just waiting for that right person to come along and do something with him.
Now, Blitzwing, on the other hand, easy A tier.
Really? I was going to say S.
I wouldn't say S, just because, like, majority, he, like Hunter said, it is just that generic goon mentality. But at the same time, I mean, that sort of brutacious nature works with both of his ult modes.
Now, if we were just ranking if we were ranking the different versions of Blitzwing, Justin, trust me, animated, easy S tier.
Yeah.
Animated was like really the only series that did anything remotely interesting with Blitzwing, other than just making him a generic goon. But even as a generic goon in G1, the fact that I got to give the bot his credit. The fact that he has two high power fire modes with an assault jet and with an assault tank and a jet fighter, it's like that alone. He's basically a 1-2 Uniflu punch for the Decepticons.
Yeah, pretty much.
I really hope somebody gets that little reference we just did there.
Personally, if we're going to compare him to his buddy in crime, Astro Train, I just think Blitzwing is more memorable than Astro Train.
I agree.
But Astro still gets a good B.
I like Astro Train, but I'll be honest, I think since he and Blitzwing were the only triple changers we had for a while before Springer and the others showed up in season 3, I just kind of felt like Astro Train was the weakest of the two. It's like, don't get me wrong, I think it's cool, but again, like he is like, he's more memorable than Broadside just because, again, he is pretty iconic just because of the fact that he turns into a space shuttle and a train.
Yeah.
Again, I would make the argument, again, it's like people complain about like mass shifting, like say like in like the live action movies. It's like, what about Astra Train? Goes from like 30-foot tall robot to a freaking space shuttle. Your argument is invalid. Shut up and get dunked on. But no, like I do like Blitz Astro Train. I do like that in more recent media that they are depicting him as giant. Like obviously
Yeah.
not like Combiner or even Titan big, but big enough where it makes sense given his alt modes.
Yeah. You're not questioning
Him in
how he's able to fit
Cyberverse.
the entire. Yeah, you're not questioning how he's able to fit the entire Decepticon army inside him when he transforms.
I think you guys described it well. Now we get on to uh, some of the first proper beast forming Decepticons, the Preds.
Again, I feel like we can just kind of lump these guys together. I think they're at least an easy A tier just because they are pretty memorable.
You know what? I was going to argue for a B, but when you pointed it out, yeah, they are pretty damn memorable.
I think B or A is justifiable.
Like especially since the name Predacon has lasted as long as it has, with like the classic Predacon still being fondly remembered.
Yeah. Plus, they have been utilized quite a bit, so.
Yeah, I mean, I just noticed though that we're missing a member. Or no, we're not.
Nope, we're not missing anyone. We got everyone here. We got Headstrong, we got Tantrum, Rampage, Razorclaw, and Scott. Was Dive Bomb? Dive Bomb. I was at Skydive.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we have Run Amok and Run About.
Hang on, where are we going to put the Predacons? You said A?
A.
All right.
I definitely think A just because, like, what helps, like I said, they are pretty memorable. They were utilized very well. I mean, hell, if we really want to get into it, they were conceptualized as far back as the planning stage for Transformers the movie, in which originally they were going to be Autobots before they got completely reinvented as Decepticons.
Really?
Not to mention the fact that their team name, Predacon, is pretty iconic in the sense that it has been used for new groups of unrelated characters, both with the Beast Wars series and with the, Dragon Formers of Transformers Prime.
Right.
So it's like these guys have left a lasting impact on the franchise that I feel is at least worthy of putting them in A tier, if nowhere higher.
Now we move on to Runabout and Runabout, which I hate to say it, but they're gonna have to go down to the D's.
I agree. I mean, I like Runabout and Runamuck. I think they're a cool concept, but they were just never really as utilized as they could be in the cartoon.
Right.
I would like to see them back in future media and have them be, just a pain in the neck for the Autobots.
Now we get on to the next bits of Beast Formers, the Terracons, and while their name has come back around and while the original team is beloved, I just don't think they have the same hold with the fans as the Predacons, so they're gonna have to be relished to either B or C.
I think C just because they kind of fit. I would argue C just because the Terracons kind of fit in with, their arch rivals on the Autobot side, the Technobots.
Right.
Like, I like their designs. I like the fact that, again, we have a Decepticon team whose alt modes are beasts. To be fair, I do like that they have been at least referenced and mentioned throughout various different Transformers series, but I agree. As far as G1 goes, they were pretty much confirmed to be late additions to the cartoon, well ahead of their toys, and they were just kind of inserted into the show haphazardly. They never got a proper origin story. Like, they show up already existing, already able to combine into Abominus.
Hang on. I think that would also be kind of fair because we just S-tiered the hell out of the Constructicons, and they were the center of some of the cartoon's worst continuity inconsistencies If we're gonna use that as a factor.
Yeah, but to be fair, it's like, at least with the Constructicons, you have different, at least, even if, yeah, it is sort of like they were retconned multiple times, Tom, at least you can make the argument that you can pick which one you like most and call it a day.
I will begrudgingly give you that one.
I just don't think the Terracons really had that. I mean, I agree the Constructicons retconning is just, it's annoying. I hate it. It's like, just pick an origin and stick with it.
Right.
Personally, I mean, if we're going to get into that, I feel like if I'm going to pick one that I like the most, I would definitely say it's the origin they had in Secret of Omega Supreme, just because I think that makes more sense.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. But I was just trying to point something out. And I wasn't really going to use that favor you owe me just yet, because I'm saving that for the back pocket.
Anyway, I see what you're going for.
And
wait a minute, I just realized we actually do have a few characters left, even though it's basically just repeating all until we get down to the bottom, so my bad.
Oh yeah, we have one more. I was about to say we have it all, but no, we have one neither Autobot or Decepticon. We have the big bad of the 1986 movie itself, and once again, it'd be an insult to put him any lower than S, Unicron.
Well, we also got the cassettes as well.
Oh.
We'll get to them in a second, but yeah, I definitely feel.
Oh yeah, Unicron is an obvious S.
On this guy left such an impact in Transformers the movie that he's still popping up today. He's basically, a lot of people have, including us at best, but he's basically the Transformers equivalent of Satan.
He even looks like Satan.
And I say, like, it was everything to do with him. His scale, his power, that booming voice just brought that sense of power provided by Orson Welles himself before he passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really left an impact.
We really don't need to spend all that much time with it. Now we move on to the smaller scale side of things, and that is the cassette bots. Cassette cons? Mini cons?
Let's just call them mini cons, because that's what they've been known
Now, I'm just going to say it right now. Rumble, Frenzy, Ravage, Laserbeak, all A's. All A's.
I can't argue with that.
Because I was about to ask, so are we going to do, so with Soundwave and Blaster's Minicon, doing the same thing where it's like we're kind of just lumping them together? Or, like, do we look at them all individually? Because
I'm going to try to do it as individual, but let's face it, those four are pretty damn iconic.
Yeah.
I agree. Like, the classic.
Yeah. So I was just gonna say, I've never really been a fan of Rat-Bat that much. I don't know about you guys.
It's a cool idea.
Yeah, but I just feel like he was just kind of there because it's like, he was the new toy, and that was the one they had to push.
Well, that is basically why he was there, so you're not entirely wrong.
I say Rat-Bat at least gets a B, just because he is a fairly interesting difference to Laserbeak. And I know we stopped trying to use this as a qualifier, but the comics have been pretty creative with them. Now, I hate to go ahead.
I also want to, like, Tom, I think I think you and I love that you and I both thought the same way about even though
Sound Blaster in Siege, that his partner should have been Rat-Bat.
Agree. Like, I mean, it was interesting to see.
Speaking of which, why isn't Buzzsaw here?
Yeah, they had Rumble and Frenzy. Where's Buzzsaw?
Buzzsaw, for whatever reason, was never in the cartoon. I don't know why that was, but he was the only one of Soundwave's mini cons that never debuted in the cartoon.
No,
Buzzsaw was in the cartoon.
Yeah, he was in the City of Steel episode, and in the what was the one where they find
What?
Atlantis?
Yeah, Buzzsaw was in there, and he was in the Auto Berserk episode. He was yeah,
Yeah,
Buzzsaw was in the
yeah.
cartoon.
Why is Buzzsaw not here? What the heck?
Well, let's just say it anyway. I think Buzzsaw would be an easy B up there with
Rat
Rat Bat.
I agree. I'm
Now
just trying to.
as far as the minions for Blaster, I hate to say this, but they're gonna have to go for C, if only because they didn't have that same chance to shine as Soundwave's cassettes.
Yeah, I agree. They're not as memorable as the Decepticon cassette bots.
They really aren't, which kind of a shame because I do like them.
Rewind certainly has had his season in the sun, but I mean, with the context of the cartoon, it's just a damn shame.
Yeah, so we're putting them in C.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And now I think we're done.
Yeah. Oh, there are two others we missed, but I don't think they're really that significant. The two dinosaur minicons Soundwave had in the episode Call of the Primitives.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, they're not in here either, but I mean, we worked with what we got.
In that one episode. Yeah, but to be fair, they only appeared in that one episode.
They probably would have been in E then.
Yeah, just because they are kind of forgettable.
Yeah, but other than that, I think I'm very happy with this tier list.
James Justin were Cindersaur and Overkill.
All right, but
so over our final listings for S tier, we have Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Wheeljack.
Hunter, it's going to take us a while to go through a recap. So what I think I'm going to do instead is that when I post this, I'm going to leave a link to it, or at the very least a link to whoever wants to post this, or maybe I'll just save it and post it to my Twitter.
It could work.
You know, everyone can take a look at this, see what they agree with or disagree with. And so that was the whole thing. This chunk took us about almost 2 hours. And so it'll be about 2.5 how long this took us, depending on how long I do an intro wrapping this all up. I wish I didn't have to edit this, but them's the break sometimes. So,
you gotta do what you gotta do.
Any closing thoughts about this little list?
You can go first.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
You've been the quietest, so I feel like it should only be fair that you should get the first closing remarks of us.
All right. Well, this has been the podcasters that don't do anything. Transformers G1 tier list.
Oh, don't go think you can steal my damn show.
Oh no, I like that.
We're still the name is still pending, okay?
I know. Hey, that's an option. But no, I think we got pretty good tier list here. Have we decided where we were going to put Jazz and S?
That's a good question.
I say too late. No take backs.
Okay.
All right, fair enough.
But yeah, I think we got a good tier list here.
I agree. I think it's pretty solid.
Yeah. We're probably gonna be doing another one of these, and
I think.
Sorry, what?
I think A tier probably has the most characters in it. in C tier.
Oh yeah.
No, oh no,
Yeah,
A definitely has the most, I think.
Yeah, A has
But it just goes to show 5 rows pretty much.
yeah. But anyway, what were you gonna say?
But yeah, like feel like we got a pretty solid list. I'm glad we all had fun making this. Hopefully everybody who watches this has fun with it.
And don't get
Enjoys
mad
what
at
we have
us
to
if we
say.
and don't get mad at us if
It's
we
like,
put
yeah,
your favorite character on a lower tier.
just understand this is not a definitive ranking of what characters we think are the best or whatever. This is just our thoughts and opinions, trying to be as fair and objective as we can. Hope if you guys disagree with us, please let us know in the comments. Just please be civil about it. Don't come at us all hiss and vinegar. We enjoy difference of opinion and we love discussion.
Yeah, they pretty much just took the whole spiel from me after nearly starting the entire shit pot with certain topics. So all is forgiven. Y'all pretty much did my outro for me, but
But also in closing, folks. Also in closing, we're not gonna reveal what our next tier list that we're gonna do is, but we feel it's a very appropriate one that we're planning to do given a recent tragedy that has happened, but we will cover that when we actually get there. We don't want to spoil it. So stay tuned for that. You guys enjoy.
You try to guess what it is in the comments below.
Yeah, I mean, then again, you're pretty much playing the roulette wheel because what tragedies haven't happened?
Well, we're specifically talking about as far as nerd culture goes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that just boils it down rather narrowly, but
yeah, it's like
we'll leave people to figure it out, but let's just not give them any more hints. I'm going to wrap this up, edit this all together, and hopefully the next time we do this, it'll be a proper podcast with a continuous recording. No smoke and mirrors needed. And yeah, as far as the first podcast goes, this ought to chooch.